Hey everyone. I'm going to play for just a minute while we get started and wait for some other people to join us. If you haven't already, let us know in the chat box, in the live chat, where you're coming from. Freehold, New Jersey. Good to see you. Let's see. Let's get my face and hands in the shot. That's what I tell all my students on Zoom. Sometimes I'll see just their face or just their hands. It's a little bit awkward until I can see both. Hello, Waltham, Massachusetts. Hello, Romford, England. Hey, Michael. It's good to see you again. You were on last night's session that crashed twice. My computer crashed in the middle of the live session last night. So if that happens again today, I apologize, and I'll try to go right back live again. So just watch for me to go live again if that happens. And then I've got some troubleshooting to do after that. Let's get started. Hello from Nottingham in the UK. All right. Let's take that down for a moment. First, before I start doing some strumming, I want to point out this. For this weekend only, I have a discount code for my new course, a brand new online course called 128 Strumming Patterns. And in the course, you get this packet of information. This is like the course textbook, which contains all 128 strumming patterns and about 150 small videos of me demonstrating all those patterns and giving a lot more advice on how to approach strumming patterns and some of the stuff that we're talking about today and how to modify strumming patterns on the fly in sort of a strumming workout sort of context. So your code is workout. And if you go to courses.deafdigits.com, you can find that course, 128 Strumming Patterns. There's also a link in the live chat. There should be a link in the description on this video as well where you can go directly to that, and the code is embedded in there. So moving on, we're going to get a basic strum going, and then we're going to start modifying it. So here's our basic strum, and I'm going to show you how to modify this one on the fly. So we start with this, and I'll say hello to some more people as we're going. So I'm just going to play a G chord. You play whatever chord you want, back and forth like this, just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. This is something that we need to get going really smooth. Hello, San Jose. Hello, Tacoma. Hello, Boston. Hello, California. Good to see people from so many different places. So as you do this, I want you to use a very big, wide range of motion like this. And probably something is already happening that I'm going to point out in a minute. But big range of motion, try to make it bigger than you're normally comfortable with. So maybe up even with the top of the guitar, even with the bottom of the guitar. Very wide follow through, very wide wind up. Now let's start doing this. I want you to take your head and your left leg, the one that's not supporting the guitar, because if you take your right leg, it's going to do this. We want your left leg to be bouncing up and down like this. I do a heel stomp. I stomp my heel on the floor, and I do it pretty hard just to get into it and really feel the beat. You can tap your toe if you want, and you can't see my toe, but if you're tapping your toe, it's a very small movement. That's more helpful than nothing, but a bigger movement can be even more helpful if you can do it. So I like to do it like this, where I'm really driving my whole leg into the ground. My head goes with it, and that also goes with my right arm, strumming up and down like this. So as we do this pattern, I'm going to try to do all of that at once. Everything goes down at the same time. The right arm goes down, the head goes down, and the left leg goes down as well. Good question from Jim's Machine in the chat box. How do I hold my pick? He's got a problem where his upstroke is catching on the strings, and that's a very important thing to deal with. That's what we're trying to do right now. I hold my pick like this, between thumb and index finger, pad of the thumb, side of the index finger. But that doesn't matter so much. The thing that matters when you go through the strings to avoid the pick catching on the strings is you want to get the edge of your pick going through the strings first, like you're slicing through them. So the way I turn it, the way most people do this, is turn the tip of your thumb down like that, like you're turning the key in the ignition of a car. We don't have so many of those anymore. So turning a key forward like that, the front edge is going to hit on the way down, the back edge is going to hit on the way back up. And if you have trouble getting a feel for this, just make it extreme at first. This is not the tone that you want to end up with, but it gives you a good idea of what it should feel like to let your pick just glide through the string. See if I can give a side view of this. So there's my pick flat against the strings. I don't want that because I have to tip it this way, and then it gets caught on the strings on the way back up unless I tip my hand back over. So if I turn it a little bit, the front edge goes through first, on the way down, back edge goes through first on the way back up. And now it just slices through. So if you turn it just a little bit, you'll get that glide through the strings. So most people will land on that technique through trial and error over time. Eventually, Jim's Machine, eventually you would, if you're just hacking away at it for years, eventually you'd find it. But we'd rather take the shortcut. If it helps to know exactly what's going on there, then go ahead and do that. So this is the way you test it out. Big range of motion, and make sure you're comfortable going through the strings. We can do a few things as we're doing this. Sorry, got to get my foot and my head going the whole time too. We can make these strums extra loud if we want. I'm probably going to blow you out when I go extra loud because my microphone is right here. So when I go extra loud, I didn't change anything to the technique. I didn't change the way I was holding it or the way I was moving at all. I didn't go faster. All I did was grab my pick a little harder because the is quite a bit more when I'm going that loud. Squeeze my pick a little harder and then just allow it to dig into the strings a little more. But same motion other than that. Everything's the same. When I go really low, I've got a very relaxed grip on my pick. For me, I use pretty thick, heavy picks that make it difficult to go very light sounding with that. So that's something that I personally work on more, is playing very lightly. I have students who have different strengths, whether they're playing loud or playing soft. They usually have one that they prefer over the other. Sometimes people play too softly, and they have to really work at playing loudly. So something to notice about what has happened as we've been doing this: you have not hit every single one of those strums, unless you're a machine, like maybe Jim's Machine. You've probably missed some of them. I have certainly missed quite a few of them. I've sort of been paying attention as I've been talking and strumming. I have not hit every single one of them. Sometimes I'll miss that up strum, or I might miss that down strum, or I might miss that one, or I might miss that one, but it didn't stop me from just still going. So let's notice that. That's something that we're going to latch onto today and try to do it on purpose eventually. So let's do this again and notice, try to play very lightly. That's what usually causes the missed strums. Try to play very lightly with the wide range of motion, And notice when you miss it. Notice that the beat keeps going even though you miss the strings. There's one. There's several in a row. Keep your head and your foot going and your arm going no matter what, even if you miss the strings. So now try to start doing this on purpose, where you keep it going, you're hitting the strings, and then you back off a little bit and you miss the strings for one strum or a few strums in a row, and then you come back. So I'm actually doing it right now. I'm missing them all. I keep the motion going, and then I bring it back onto the guitar. And then I back off a little bit, keep the beat going, and then back onto the guitar. Back off again and come back on. So now let's start doing that deliberately in certain places. So we've got all of these turned on right now, and I'm going to select one right here to start turning off. So this last up strum, I'm going to put a big dot above it, big green dot. That's the one that we're going to turn off deliberately. We're going to miss that one on purpose. So in order to miss that particular one, we need to count the beats as we're going through. So let's get this going first, where we're counting the beats along with tapping the foot and bobbing the head and strumming at the same time. So we're not turning it off yet, just counting the beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4. If you're doing this on your own and you're not doing it along with me in this video, definitely say the beats out loud to yourself so that your ears can hear them and you get the feedback of, yes, I'm on the beat, or no, I'm not on the beat. It makes it much harder to have timing issues if you are counting out loud to yourself. If you're counting only in your head, it's too easy to just tell yourself, yeah, I got it right, without realizing that something was wrong. Saying it out loud helps you realize when something's wrong and fix it. So that one, we need to notice when that is happening and then try to turn it off. So now I'm going to start counting just the way I was doing with that last drum turned on. I'm going to start noticing that, oh, that's the and of 4. That's the one I want to turn off. And then when I feel ready, I'm going to turn that one off. And I'll go back and forth. I'll have it off, and then I'll have it back on again, and then off again and back on again. I'll let you know what I'm doing as I go. So here we go with everything on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now I'm going to start turning it off. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Back on again. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Back off again. 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now I'm going to go back and forth. One time through with everything on. One time through with the last drum turned off. Let's do, in that order. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then if you can do this without the counting, if you can keep it going, then you can go ahead and do that. But like I said, if you're only counting in your head or you're not counting at all, what's going to stop you from not doing it right? You're just doing a bunch of down ups in a row and then you skip one. I did it. But if it's not fitting exactly this, then you're not quite doing that rhythm right. So if you need to, count out loud. If it's possible, count in your head. Just be aware that you're losing the checks on your own mistakes. If you're counting out loud, you're keeping all of your mistakes in check. So if you feel comfortable losing the out loud count, then you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with the count on and then fade it out. So still alternating between those. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Good. Now we are going to take that one out completely and choose another strum to turn on and off. There we go. So now the and of 4 is gone. And let's start changing chords, because that's going to help keep us on track with those 4 beats when we stop counting. If we feel the chords changing, that's going to be a lot easier to keep the beat going. I'm going to do G and C. If you would prefer 2 other chords because they're easier for you, just put them in the chat and I'll switch to those. I'll try those out as well. So G and C are very, very common, but they are not some of the first chords that I teach beginners. So if you're in that boat where you've got some other chords that are a lot easier for you, we can do those. So G and C, I'm going to do this over and over on G and C deliberately, and then we're going to choose one to turn off. So again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, C, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, G, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, C. All right, now I'm going to turn off this up strum right here. So now I'm going to do both G and C with that up strum turned on, and then I'm going to try turning it off. I'm going to miss it for the next round through of both of those chords. So here we go with everything on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now turn it off. Let's leave it off for a minute. 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 4. 1, 2 and 3. Now let's try alternating between this drum being on and this drum being off. Alternating on the fly. We're going to do everything on for G, and then we'll turn that strum off for C. So we're doing the red for the G chord, and then we omit that up strum for the C chord. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now that we've been doing that deliberately, let's try this. You can turn that up strum on and off at will just by your own taste. So you might have noticed if you've made a mistake and if you're playing along with me and you've played a different strum than the one I was doing, if you had that on when I had it off or vice versa, it still works as long as we both keep the beat going. So we're going to try that. It might end up being a cacophony between you and me, but I don't think it will be as bad as you might expect, because if we both keep the beat going, then almost everything is going to line up. There's just one person hitting an extra strum here if we're doing it differently. So we're going to keep this going over and over, and just intuitively, you're going to turn this strum on and off just by musical taste. Still going back and forth between G and C, and we're going to turn that strum on and off at will. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Let's try it with another one. I'm going to take that one out. We'll just keep going with this as our master pattern and start turning off those individual strums so that we can, if we keep this as our master pattern, then it's easier to change chords because the last up strum is missing. And we can hear everything else that's happening. So there are not moments where we have to keep the beat going in silence. We can hear all 4 beats. We have down strums on all 4 beats. That's what makes this one a little more straightforward than other patterns that you might have encountered. So let's start turning off that particular up strum. So let's count through it again and identify where the and of 2 is. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Pay close attention as you do that to which one of those was the and of 2. That's the one that we're going to turn off. Here we go. Let's go straight to having it off, and then we'll work on doing it on the fly. So now we have no up strum here. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 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 Still going back and forth between G and C. Now let's start doing it where we switch back and forth. So we're going to go G and C together, G and C, both of them on the red pattern, and then G and C with the green one turned off. Here we go with everything turned on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Now turn the green off. Back to red. Turn the green off. Now let's switch between both chords. So we'll do red is the G chord and the green off is the C chord. So we've got red on G, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Turn the green off for C. Just for fun, let's try to get this one cooking a little faster. If you have trouble keeping up, just airplay. Keep your foot stomping the whole time. Very good. Now let's do another one. Same process on this up strum. Let's start with just counting the red back and forth on G and C, counting it out loud and identifying it in your mind, visualize where that last up strum is, because that's the one that we're about to turn off. We go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Now let's turn it off. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 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 Now let's go back and forth. Let's go straight to doing the red on G, turn the green strum off for C, back and forth. Red on G, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Green on C, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 4. All right, let's do something a little more challenging. We're going to take out one of those down strums. Let's take this one out. That down strum is going to throw you off. Because as we count it, we still have to count the beat here. We still have to feel the beat. We still have to go down with our whole body, and we still have to say 2, even though we're missing the strings. So this is where it really helps to latch onto that skill that you were doing at the very beginning of this workout, where you're doing this. And sometimes you miss the strings, just on accident. And then you start doing that on purpose. Sometimes you miss the strings, sometimes you come strum them, but you keep the motion going the whole time. The beat keeps going in your leg and your head, and your arm keeps going the whole time. So that's what this moment right here needs to feel like. On beat 2, you miss the beat and you keep going. It keeps going. You can't stop yourself, can't stop your arm from strumming. The beat needs to go on no matter what. And if you make any other mistakes through any of these patterns that we're looking at, treat them the same way that you were treating this. When you miss the strings, you just keep on going. And it's okay. If you made a mistake, you will literally have another chance to get it right in half a second, because you're doing the thing over and over. Don't stop in the middle of it to try to get anything right again. So let's turn that one off. Let's count through it first and notice when that strum is that we need to turn off, and then we'll do it deliberately. So G and C again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 So that one on beat 2, we're going to miss it now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Now let's start turning it on and off deliberately. We're going to go red on G, turn the green one off on C, just like before. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Excellent. So if you were able to do that, that's one of the hardest things to do with strumming patterns, is to omit a down strum on the beat. And there are lots of ways to omit the down strums on beats. We're going to do another one right now. Let's take this down strum out. Same process. Let's count through it back and forth on G and C and notice where that beat 3 is that we're going to turn off. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Now let's miss it deliberately, skipping the down strum on beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 Now let's switch back and forth between them. Red on G, turn the green one off on C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 Excellent. Now let's do something that we did before, did a few minutes ago on a different pattern where we turn that one on and off at will. We're going to keep going between G and C, but we're going to take that strum on beat 3 and allow it to turn on and off, maybe deliberately, maybe on accident, but try to make it feel natural and let the music flow as you're doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the essence of modifying strumming patterns on the fly, and that is what really happens in every single song that I play. When I have a strumming pattern in mind, I don't play every single strum on every single measure perfectly. Sometimes a strum is too loud or too quiet. Sometimes I miss a strum that I intended to hit. Sometimes I hit a strum that I intended to miss. So those little variations are happening here and there all the way through a song. Whenever I play a complete song, if I'm gonna be playing a strumming pattern for like 3 minutes straight, there's no way I'm gonna get every single one of those strums exactly as I intended. So what I've basically shift my intent to do variations on the strumming pattern just based on my musical taste in the context of the song at any given moment. So I'm constantly in my head just turning strums on and off without really thinking so explicitly about it as we are now. I start with doing it explicitly, and then over time you just do it musically. The sound and the feel is in your head, and you're sort of imagining what the sound of the next measure is going to be, and then you'll probably end up doing some strums that you didn't do in the previous measure, or omitting some strums that you didn't omit in the previous measure. That's how this stuff happens naturally. So it's very helpful to start by doing this explicitly and then allow it to happen naturally after that. I'm going to turn one more off and take 2 green dots to deal with now. This is going to give us a very common strumming pattern if we turn both of those off. But we're going to try doing a few different variations with those green ones and then allow that common strumming pattern to blossom into other variations. So let's start by just turning them both off, because we just had this one turned off on beat 3, and we had this one turned off previously. So what's it going to sound like if we omit both of those green strums? We're going to go 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now, if I speed this up and do it on some more chords, you'll see that it is very, very common. lots and lots of songs will use that exact strum, often with the last up strum turned on as well, but I haven't talked about that yet because that last up strum is a sneaky one. That one should be sort of on accident between the chords. I'm not going to talk about that right now. That is covered in depth in the 128 strumming patterns course. Right now, we're going to take those two strums and practice starting with them off and allowing them to turn on whenever we want to without stopping the music. Keep the music going no matter what. So let's try first taking that, let's do this, where we have the red on G again, and then both of those are off for C. So this is going to take some concentration to get them both off on C, but let's do it. Red on G, turn both of the green ones off for C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 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 4. Now let's try this, where we can do that willy-nilly. We can allow either of those strums to turn on or off, and we're thinking of them as all the same thing. So if we do the math, we have 4 different variations of turning those two strums on and off. We could have them both on, we could have this one on and this off and this on, or we could have them both off. So we've done all of those variations now. We've done the red on G every time, and we turned this one off previously, and we turned this one off by itself previously, and now we just turned them both off. So we can think of them as 4 different strumming patterns. I tend to think of them as all the same. All 128 variations in the course, they're all the same thing. They all are doing this on the beat the whole time. If you watch someone from across the room doing it, they all look exactly the same because you can't see if they're hitting the strings or not. So all of them are just variations on all the other ones. So in this case, you can think of them as 4 different strumming patterns at first, but try to start thinking of them as just variations that might happen by accident, variations that you might use on purpose as you're just going through a song. So I'm going to try demonstrating this where I do it 4 different ways, just at random on those 2 chords. You can play along with me too if you feel comfortable making those changes at random, or just airplay and listen to what they sound like. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did not stick completely to the task at hand. There was at least one time, maybe a couple times, where I did some other variation where I deleted more strums than I intended to. I did, at least one time I did down, up, down, down, up, down. So I omitted this one. But like I said, all of those possible variations where we can turn all of these strums on and off, they all feel the same to me. They all feel, well, they feel at their core, they are the same. And then the rhythms that come out are a little bit different. So making those rhythmic adjustments on the fly is really, really fun, and it's very freeing. It's liberating to be able to do that whenever you want to. So let's try, so here's one thing I'll do. This is the way I end up thinking about it. This is not the methodical way. This is sort of, if I'm doing this very common strum, the way I would think about this and make variations on the fly, I'm going to put the last up strum in at the end. No, I'm not. The way I'm thinking about this and making variations on the fly is I start here, and then all 8 of those strums are fair game. to turn on and off whenever I want to. So I might not be thinking like, this time I'm going to turn off the up strum on the and of 2. Here we go. This time I'm going to turn off the down strum on beat 4. I never think of it explicitly like that while I'm playing. It's more of an intuitive musical thing. But in order to get there, you'll have to do the explicit stuff to maybe just take a common strumming pattern like this and just one by one, turn this one off, turn this one off, turn this one off, or turn this one on. You flip whichever direction it is. Turn this one on, turn this one off, off, on, off, off, on. So try them all out, and you end up making all those variations on the fly as long as you're familiar with all of them. And that is the whole point of the 128 strumming patterns course, where we take all 128 possible variations of down strum on beat 1. All of the rest of them can be turned on and off. Turning off the down strum on beat 1 is a little awkward because you miss the moment that the chords change. So all of the other ones we can turn on and off. We get all those variations. I'm going to do some variations right now. I'm just going to play this over and over. You can play along with me, and let's allow any of those missing ones to turn on whenever our hand does it accidentally or whenever we want to. And let's allow any of these non-beat 1 strums to turn off whenever we want to. So it'll sound like this. You can air play along if you want, or play along yourself if you want. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we'll wrap up after that. That's the super magic power that I want you to be able to get. So if you got something from this workout right now, I'm very happy that you were able to do something brand new. That's the golden ticket right there, is to take a common strumming pattern and to fluidly do it intuitively, making those adjustments on the fly, because you get a lot of different variations when you do that. You can play more tastefully when you do that. You can be more sensitive to the feel of the song at any given moment. If you're playing with a group, if the drummer starts driving a little harder, you might do some extra strums in there. Like there were a couple times when I had all 8 strums turned on, as I just did that a minute ago. And if the drummer starts doing a build up like that, I might do that along with him. And it'll be easy if I've already given myself the training of doing those variations on whatever strumming pattern the song originally called for. I can play differently given different contexts within the song. So to wrap up, I want to mention this again. Let me reveal that course code, coupon code. If you go to courses.deafdigits.com, you'll see I have a few courses, online courses available there. There's one for lead guitar playing. There's one for knowing every note on the fretboard. There's also one for strumming patterns called 128 Strumming Patterns. This weekend only, you can get 50% off using this coupon code WORKOUT. And there's a link in the description of this video if you want to go directly to that page without having to search for it on courses.deafdigits.com. There's a link in the description. Click that link and it'll take you straight to the discount page this weekend only. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Please subscribe on my YouTube channel to see more of these. I'd like to do more of these live streams where it's like a play along workout like this. Please also, if you're on my website, deafdigits.com, you can sign up for my email list there. You get lots more goodies and free email lessons and stuff like that. And also look me up on deafdigits.com if you're interested in private Zoom lessons or group Zoom lessons. I've got some group classes that I'm starting to put together right now. All of my private students who used to come here to this room in Seattle are now on Zoom, so I'm doing everyone doing Zoom lessons right now. So that can work all over the world, not just with my former in-person lessons in Seattle. Thank you all for coming. Let me see if there are any questions I can ask in the live chat. I've got a few more minutes here, so if you've got a question related to strumming, go ahead and put it in the live chat. Let's see. There was a question about whether it's better to practice each selected pattern separately in order to remember them. Yes, at first. If you have any trouble just turning them on and off at will, then yes, absolutely practice them separately. That is what we get in here in the 128 strumming pattern course. We practice all of those variations, all 128 of them separately. So that amounts to just taking all 8 of those strums, just turning them on and off separately to practice each of those separate strumming patterns. Get used to them all, because some of them will trip you up more than others will. So you find those ones that trip you up and you work on them to make them feel more comfortable. And then when you're turning those on and off on the fly, then none of them will trip you up. Let's see. Any other questions in there? Is it okay not to use a pick? Absolutely. If you're playing ukulele, all of these same concepts apply. The wide range of motion, the keep your arm moving, everything like that. On ukulele, you can't use such a wide range of motion because it's not as big, but that's how you normally play on ukulele, is with a finger, your index finger going down and up like that. If you're strumming with fingers on the guitar, you might do the ukulele technique of one fingernail on the way down, finger pad on the way up. That's totally fine. But notice that it sounds very different. So my philosophy on using a pick or using fingers, get comfortable with both so that you can choose based on the sound that you want, rather than I'm just going to use my fingers because I'm uncomfortable using a pick. If that's the situation you're in, practice with a pick for a while. It doesn't take too long to get comfortable with it, maybe a week, maybe a few weeks. Practice with a pick until you're really comfortable with it. And then if the song is supposed to go like this, there's no way you can get that sound with fingers. Impossible. So if you have a song that needs to sound like this, that really soft touch that you get, especially from the pad of your finger, or even doing pad of your thumb and pad of your fingers like this, there's no way to get that sound with a pick. So all the different variations of the sound of fingers, the sound of a pick, all those variations are impossible in the other world. So make sure you're comfortable using both. Let's see. Oh, also hit like on this, hit the thumbs up on this video if you liked what we did today. I think that will help YouTube recommend it to other people. I'm going to leave this stream up just as is so that you can come back to it and watch it again. Let's see. Keep the plectrum at 45% at all times. That is actually not the way I do it. 45%. Does that mean 45 degrees, turning it this way? If that's what you're saying, that's usually what people recommend, is turn the pick 45 degrees and keep it there. But notice one thing, that your hand is at a different angle at different points on the string. So maybe it's 45 degrees up here, but unless you're turning it along, like turning it backwards as your arm goes through, it won't be 45 degrees here. So we can't say it's exactly the same all the time. But also, I will turn it more in certain situations, and I'll make it flatter in certain situations. If I need the sound to be like really smooth like that, I might turn it a little more. If I need the pick to be going a little smoother through the strings and have the sound be a little less aggressive, I'll turn it more because it glides through the strings easier. Maybe this is a good example right here. If I need that the attack to be a little more aggressive, I'll go flatter against the strings, but never all the way flat. So I always have the edge touching first in both directions. I always have it tilted a little bit, probably average 45 degrees, I don't know. But sometimes I tilt it quite a bit if I need to do something that requires it. I might even go all the way like... If I'm doing some kind of technique like that where I have to rapidly go between the strings, I'm almost perpendicular to the strings when I do that. Or I'll do that on electric guitar sometimes where I just want like 2 notes right next to the bridge. It sounds horrible on acoustic, but if I do this very quietly on electric, you can get like a swell of volume from the strings. And I have my pick totally perpendicular to the strings like that. All right. Thank you all again for coming. Stay in touch. Hit that like button, subscribe, leave some comments after the video. Tell me how you liked it. And I will see you next time. Take care. Thank you, guys.